Hello everyone, welcome to the Coach Academy YouTube channel. My name is Tanguy Billon, driver for Mivano, and today we are going to learn how to make the most out of iRacing's latest tire model for the GTPs. We are now going on to the track, doing exactly the same tire prep as we used to do last season with the old tire model, which means we will be leaning quite a bit on the TC settings. We're using 9.9 at the moment. It's a bit on the high side, but it gives us a nice sense of security as we drive. So leaning quite a lot on the TC, not exactly doing a lot of throttle management, sliding a bit the tires. Basically what we could have done last season, and we'll see afterwards why what we're doing at the moment is extremely wrong and won't give us good results towards the end of the stint. So what happened in racing is that you have core temperature of the tires, which is basically equal when you start driving as the ambient temperature, and then you have surface temperature on the tires. In iRacing, what's exactly extremely common is that you have a higher surface temperature than the core temperature, which is completely normal as you're driving. But in iRacing, if the delta between the two is way too high, let's say you have maybe 70 degrees core temperature and at some point 100 degrees surface temperatures. In iRacing, this will cause an immense loss of grip. If that happens on the front, it's bad because you will have a lot of understeer. But if that happens on the rear, you will have oversteer, which will completely compromise the car balance and you will spin out basically. When your surface temperature gets way too high, it's extremely hard to get it lower on iRacing. You basically can't really cool down your tires. Now, nurturing the tires, you don't exactly have to do it when it's raining, because the rain itself will just cool down the tires itself. So you don't need that much management as we'll do later on in the rain. And LMP2 tire model is not that sensitive to it as the GTP is, because LMP2 has quite a nice mechanical grip. And since this update, not only the tire model have changed on the GTP, but also the power output. We have 50 more kilowatts, which means it's way harder to put the power down now than it was before. So at the moment, we are not exactly taking care of the tires. I'm not exactly exaggerating it. I could be a bit more. But the temperatures are rising quite a lot and the car is quite unstable. I'm not really feeling comfortable enough to really push it. It's extremely loose on the traction zones, and if I keep doing it, I feel like after 2 or 3 laps I might end up spinning the car. So we're coming across the penultimate corner. At the moment the car is still behaving somewhat decently because yes, the tires are really hot, but they are within the operating window. But if we keep on doing that, the next lap the tires won't be anymore in this operating window, they will be higher because they will overheat. So across the line that is 36.3, and now we'll finally see the correct way of warming up the tires and doing the tire prep for optimal stint performance. So we are now going to see the right way of prepping the tires for your stint with the latest tire model. So out of the pits, we're not putting too much stress on the rear tires, it's the most important. Barely lighting up the LED traction control, now full throttle, extremely progressive. And we're basically the same in every corner. We are trying to take a wider line so that we can open up the steering wheel as much as we can and not sliding the rear. So for this corner, for example, you want to go all the way to the outside and pick up on the inside. So when you are going full throttle again, you are not putting that much stress on the rear tires because you will have less steering wheel input. Out of the corners, this hairpin, not putting full throttle until very late. So your tires have quite some inertia, so you have more grip. And you're not leaning as much on the TC. It may sound counterintuitive, but you can go lower actually on the TC than before. So it forces you to be even more careful about your tires. Once again, very, very smooth here on the exit on the throttle, not stressing the rear tires that much. Both sides of the wheel, right and left, you can see LEDs lighting up on throttle. When it's blue, it's traction control LED, which means I'm leaning on the TC. And as you can see, exit of the corners, I'm barely lighting them up, which is exactly what you're looking for. And I'm not running that high of a traction control settings at the moment. It's on 5.4, which is nice traction settings. It looks very nice. Lower, you can have a bit of slip. Higher, you might light up the tires, especially the surface temp, which we are not looking for. So remember, at the moment it's not exactly about lap time, it's about the tires, it's about prepping the tires for the stint as it goes on. So what you want to do for the first 3, 4, 5 laps maybe, you want to underdrive the car, so you will lose a bit of time, maybe 3, 4 tenths a lap. But what happens is, once your tires are up to temp, the core temperature I mean, and you keep on driving like this, you will be able to be extremely consistent with your lap times. Well, if you overheat the tires early on, like we did right before, you will have a car that is fast for 3, 4 laps, and then you will have tire issue for the rest of the stint, which means gaining maybe 5 tenths first 3 laps is nice, but then you will be losing 5 tenths per lap for the next 15 or so laps, which is suboptimal. While now we are giving up a tiny bit of time at the beginning, but we're gaining all towards the end. And we'll see how exactly it works on Delta right after this lap. So as the stint goes on, you will be able to push a tiny bit more because everything will be up to temp and you won't have to nurture them as much as we are doing now, but you will still want to do a tiny bit of lift and coast here and there and not stress that much the tires. And that's how you will be really fast for the whole duration of your stint. So here we are now on the Delta app to explain exactly what was going on with our driving. So the color curves are from the lap in which we are taking good care of the tires when we are prepping them correctly for this tire model. And in yellow is the old prep we used to do with the old tires. So as we can see on the bottom row there, these are the surface temperature of the tires at the given time. The first 2 ones are the fronts, the second to last and last are the rear tires, rear left and rear right. As we can see on the color curves, so when we are not taking care of the tires, we have a lot of spike, a lot of peak when we are going out of the corners, meaning that the temperature is way higher. So if we compare temperature here, we are slipping a lot on the lap and we have a delta of 14 degrees at the surface of the tires. And if we look at the curves of the pressures, we can see the fronts are somewhat the same because we did not exactly understeer in either lap, except maybe the last corner at some point. But the rears, we slipped a lot and we leaned a lot on the traction control for the lap when we didn't prep the tires correctly. We can see here that the tire pressures rose a lot higher without the tire prep. The difference is not exactly significant here because it's only the first flying lap. But as you go on in the stint, when you will be lap 5th, 6th, or 7th, the difference will just get greater and greater. And at some point, the rears will be overheat that much that you will start losing tenths and tenths simply out of corners. And at some point, you might even encounter instability so great that you might just lose the car when you will go on throttle back for T1, for example. So this is exactly what is highlighted by these graphs. And we can see the throttle application here on the green curves. So when we are nurturing the tires, we can see that we are a lot smoother on the throttle for a longer period of time. We are not stabbing it at all. Braking, it's somewhat similar. Maybe we're a tiny bit smoother entry of the braking, which puts less stress on the front tires and rear tires. But the most important here is really the throttle. We are a lot smoother overall, and that's why we keep the temps a lot lower in the rears. And that's why for the long runs on the stint, we will get a better average considering all the lap times than if we did last season tire prep. And now you know how to get the best out of your tires. If you have any question, leave them down in the comments or in our Discord. I will be answering them. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.